Hi, my name is Aaron, and I'll be your host for today's webinar on the 5 critical risks of divorce and the heavy toll they take on you and your family's future. This program examines the underestimated risks and divorce mistakes that can complicate the present and devastate your future. We will also explore the steps you can take which will help you through your divorce. Now, I realize some of you are considering divorce and some of you are thinking about how to save your marriage. Some of you are here because you were served papers and others because you're about to serve your spouse. No matter your reason, we are hopeful that you find this webinar informative. I encourage you to take notes and write down any questions that you have. The more notes you take, the more prepared you will be for the upcoming process and your meeting with an attorney when that time comes. Now, please understand, this webinar is not intended to serve as legal advice and is designed for general information purposes only. You should consult with an attorney for advice regarding your specific situation. Now, when we're finished, you will have an opportunity to make an appointment with a lawyer. Now, perhaps you're thinking, why did Weinberger Law Group commission such a study? Well, ending a relationship can be traumatic, chaotic, and filled with emotion. The decisions made during this sensitive time have long-term effects on the lives of everyone involved, and we see the implications to families firsthand every day, so we wanted to help. In fact, we hired an independent research company to study the overlooked challenges and uncover solutions to help you through this difficult time, and we're pleased to share this information with you. These are the areas that we'll cover today. We're going to look at today's changing world. We'll look at hidden threats that can jeopardize your future. We will also look at overlooked factors and underestimated impacts that can come back to haunt you. And finally, we'll look at strategies you can use to protect your family and your future. Here's a look at today's changing world. Now, I don't have to tell you, but families have changed. Let's look back at 1960. 72% of U.S. adults over 18 were married. 92% of children lived at home with two parents, and less than 5% of couples got separated or divorced. Now, since that time, divorce rates have increased over 200%. Most people know that 50% of first marriages today end in divorce, but many don't realize the full scope and hidden impacts of these decisions. In fact, divorce takes a heavy personal toll. Experts list divorce among the most stressful life events, second only to death. Studies show that death and divorce entail a similar grieving process. Now, according to the Surgeon General, about 40% of people experience clinical depression and significant anxiety when divorcing. This emotional process takes place regardless of the reason for divorce. Now, you're probably thinking, what about the children? As hard as it is on adults, it's even harder for the children. 30% of American children will experience divorce. Our research shows the most important factor that determines how severe the impact will be is parental conflict and how it is handled. Now, unfortunately, divorce often brings conflict and high emotion that may be difficult to overcome. So let's take a look at risk number 1, overlooking the impacts of change. The reality is, every aspect of life will be changed by divorce. In fact, dissolving a relationship is not just the end of a partnership, it's the death of a couple and the birth of a new life for two newly single individuals. Now, how the divorce is handled makes an enormous difference in your ability to get past this phase in your new life and into a new, more fulfilling life. Before you can create your new life, you need to understand the full scope of challenges that lay ahead. Statistics show that major depressive episodes are highest among divorced adults. Major depressive episodes occur when depression interferes with day-to-day living and responsibilities. In fact, 72% of divorced or separated adults are treated for depression. And the period of time during which a divorce is pending is not the only time of risk. Unfortunately, divorce is one of the major culprits in adult suicides. And if depression strikes, your emotions can be difficult to overcome. Risk number 2 is being unprepared for the tsunami of emotion. The emotional tsunami includes several stages. In up to 90% of divorces, one spouse wants out of the marriage, but the other doesn't. This means that the emotional process for one is years ahead when the other spouse is just realizing that there will be a separation. This creates a significant difference in their stages of the emotional divorce. The first stage of grief is denial, followed by anger. Now, the experts put divorce anger in its own special category because of its intensity. Divorce anger is defined as a special kind of anger, with extreme rage, vindictiveness, and overpowering bitterness. This intense divorce anger can be ignited or reignited at any time throughout the divorce process. Divorce anger can also impact your health. In one study, heart disease was linked with intense anger in 80% of patients. An 8-year study showed that anger and hostility doubles the risk of heart attack. There can also be immediate dangers due to anger and hostility. Divorce anger can also lead to violence. There are over 2 million incidents of domestic violence that require medical treatment each year. Experts say that as many as 6 million may go unreported. When children are involved, the violence spills over to them too. In 60% of domestic violence cases that began against a spouse or partner, children were later abused. Now, unfortunately, domestic violence is not rare. 1 in 4 women will be the victim of domestic violence. According to the Surgeon General, domestic violence is a leading cause of injury to women between the age of 15 and 44, more common than automobile accidents, muggings, and cancer deaths combined. A woman dies as a result of domestic violence about every 30 minutes. Most people don't know this, but there are over 100,000 men who report being victims of domestic violence annually as well. The emotional journey simulates a wide range of feelings beyond anger. The roller coaster includes guilt, ambivalence, confusion, resentment, and frustration, and each emotion causes chemical reactions in the brain. Now, we all know that emotions impact our reasoning. In fact, studies have shown that these stressful emotions double the risk of making bad decisions that lead to regrets. Now, if you think about it, this kind of makes sense because stressful emotions decrease our ability to evaluate risks, anticipate what other people are likely to do, and predict how people respond to what we do. And yet, divorcing couples are making decisions that affect the rest of their lives at a time when emotions are stronger than ever, putting their futures at risk. Risk number 3 deals with underestimating the financial impacts. Financial changes can be devastating. This often results in continued litigation. Relitigating can have an impact financially for years to come. Common culprits include not fixing a detailed parenting time schedule by including open-ended language for flexible visitation times, not addressing private school or college tuition as part of the final divorce agreement, changes in circumstances and failure to abide by an agreement, and including childcare costs in your child support guidelines. You see, when daycare expenses increase, new guidelines will have to be prepared, and noting childcare expenses separately in your agreement can help you avoid future litigation. And on top of the financial impact, there's confusion with the legal system. At one of the most painful and stressful times in your life, when you have to cope with changes in all aspects of your life, you now have to navigate a confusing legal system. The decisions you make have effects that can last you a lifetime. The legal process is not only confusing, there are also hidden pitfalls. Risk number 4 addresses the legal pitfalls. The first legal pitfall is hiring the wrong lawyer. There are about 1.2 million active lawyers in the U.S. Since 1985, the number of lawyers increased almost 10% faster than the U.S. population. Now, choosing a lawyer amongst so many is a challenge because really, at the end of the day, how do you know how skilled they are? A national survey showed that only 31% of people were happy with their lawyer's performance, which means almost 70% were unhappy. And the number one reason why 7 out of 10 people would not recommend their lawyer is poor communication, which includes not keeping them informed, being unresponsive, and not listening, as well as setting unrealistic expectations that simply didn't pan out. It's important to avoid working with a lawyer who can't say no because, quite frankly, it's an underestimated liability. When your lawyer agrees with everything you say or promises you the world, it should be an immediate red flag. There will inevitably be areas where expectations need adjustment or you'll be in for a rude awakening and ultimately disappointment. When your lawyer doesn't establish proper expectations, your litigation can be long and costly, only to end up with a result that, quite frankly, could have been predicted from the outset. Another example is when a general practitioner takes on a family law matter. Family law is complex, and just because they can represent you doesn't mean that they should or that they'll be effective. One such negative effect is overlooking the future issues that need to be addressed at the time of divorce. These can be major pitfalls which only become apparent much later. You should pay particular attention to your lawyer's communication from your first interview on, which is a key indicator of their behavior and approach. In real life, the angry, hostile approach that lawyers portray on TV actually works against your best interest. The litigation as war mentality makes divorce and child custody an escalating series of attacks and counterattacks that can skyrocket the cost of legal fees. Poor communication, especially inflammatory communication, can set you up for further pitfalls. And escalating tensions and inflaming volatile emotions is not helpful for the health and well-being of all involved. Additionally, conflict can take a toll that lasts a lifetime on children. And this kind of approach is also noted by judges. It has been our experience that judges do not appreciate grandstanding. Superior Court Judge Holly Avery-Whetstone noted a case where legal fees and costs had skyrocketed because the case took on an intense emotional tone. She stated that counsel's behavior was immature, boorish, unprofessional, disrespectful, and inconsiderate of each other and the court. In fact, during the trial itself, the attorneys were asked to circle the courthouse on foot until they cooled down. And in the judge's view, the trial could have been completed in less than half its time, if not for the over-aggressive behavior of some of the lawyers involved. Now, a lawyer must persuade a judge to their way of thinking with every interaction they have, and their ability to persuade is significantly undermined by a negative perception. Because of the human element and all of the surrounding emotions, clients can sometimes misunderstand a lawyer's actions, which could be to their detriment. Sometimes, a table-banging lawyer who disputes every minor detail can be perceived by their client as thorough. You might hear people say, "Boy, I'm so glad I have a lawyer who fights so aggressively for me." What you may not understand is that some parts of the law are black and white, and unnecessary motions guaranteed to fail simply drive up costs and brand you as an unreasonable person to the judge. These type of theatrics are sure to agitate the other side, making it more likely they will respond in kind. If every minor issue is a battle, the possibility of losing what you really want is significantly increased. And at the end of the day, is it worth it? The best lawyers fight hard when it's time to fight, but keep things reasonable and amicable, if at all possible, to serve your best interests. And the final risk is miscalculating the future consequences. Now, our research identified 5 overlooked factors that can wreak havoc on your parenting. The first is visitation. Small items like specific pickup and drop-off times can cause never-ending frustration. After all, do you really want your former spouse to be able to show up unannounced, drop the children off at undesignated, inconvenient times, or interfere with your plans? And even holidays and vacations can become stressful nightmares. Now, you can prevent these types of visitation issues from occurring by adding provisions into your divorce agreement. The second overlooked factor is education. Private school and college costs are often not addressed when children are young at the time of divorce. Post-judgment litigation costs to address this issue can cost thousands later on. If these issues are not addressed prior to divorce, your child's first-year tuition may be spent on litigation rather than education. The third is shared custody. Many parents misunderstand exactly how this works and how much autonomy they lose. The level of ongoing interaction required severely limits your options. This means that there are greater restrictions on your mobility and decision-making. The fourth overlooked factor is emancipation. Contrary to popular belief, a child is not automatically emancipated at age 18. This mistake has actually led to incarceration when a parent failed to pay child support while their child was still in college. Now, not every case is the same, so make sure you address this issue with your attorney. The fifth is unexpected agreements. Making an exception to the terms of your agreement or going in long with an informal plan that you expect to be short-term can come back to haunt you. The other parent can use this situation to get the court to make this informal plan a permanent modification. Now let's look at 5 overlooked factors that can wreak havoc on your finances. The first is the case information statement, otherwise known as the CIS. A lack of a comprehensive CIS can adversely affect the outcome of any future litigation. For example, if your financial situation changes later, such as through a job loss, small overlooked details in your CIS can significantly harm your chances of getting any relief. The second factor is tax consequences. Certain disbursement arrangements can add unexpected tax burdens. Retirement accounts are one example. If your tax liability isn't accurately factored into your settlement, it can be worth a lot less than you thought it would be. The third factor is being unprepared. A lawyer will need numerous documents from you: bank statements, records of debt, tax returns, etc., and they bill by the hour. So failing to gather and organize the right documents yourself means you're going to end up paying your lawyer hundreds per hour just to do administrative work. Fourth is overlooked assets. An inexperienced attorney and those representing themselves often overlook non-material assets. Items such as frequent flyer miles and reward points do have value. Non-material assets can be used as bargaining chips, even if they aren't important to you. And the fifth overlooked factor is underestimating an asset's value. One example is the value of household contents. Furniture, artwork, tools, a piano, coin collections, and memorabilia all have value. The overlooked value of household contents can be very significant. Now, lastly, we're going to look at the 5 overlooked factors that can wreak havoc on your future. The first is life insurance. Not adequately insuring your divorce settlement can leave you destitute if your former spouse passes away. Many people don't recognize that alimony actually terminates upon death. Now, if such an event were to occur, you would have no recourse against the estate for unpaid years of alimony you were counting on. However, you can protect yourself by incorporating life insurance into your divorce agreement. The second overlooked factor is debt. Improper handling of marital debt can cause present and future financial problems. The financial burden and collection calls can become a daily stressor when debt is overlooked. Additionally, your credit rating can suffer, and unfortunately, bankruptcy is a common outcome due to poor handling of marital debt. The third factor is inaccurate information. Now, if you hide information from your lawyer, or your lawyer doesn't ask you for the right information, this could leave yourself open to serious sanctions from the court. Moreover, the court may view you as untrustworthy and side with your spouse on important issues. The fourth overlooked factor is time. Allowing too much time to pass before enforcing a court order can leave you without recourse. For example, if your ex fails to pay for unreimbursed medical expenses, allowing too much time to go by before seeking enforcement could leave you unable to collect. The court may consider your failure to follow up as a waiver of your right to reimbursement. In such an event, your best course of action is to make the violation a matter of record with the court, thus preserving the ability to collect. Then it's your choice whether to cut your spouse a break or not. The fifth factor is documentation. Paying with cash versus leaving a paper trail is a common mistake. Now think about it. If you can't prove that you've made a cash payment, you may be required to pay again. Additionally, failure to keep records can result in a proof problem, thus preventing you from being able to collect a reimbursement. You should keep in mind that losing or misplacing your divorce agreement often leads to unintentional noncompliance and sanctions, so it really is best to keep it in a safe place, and you might want to consider having a duplicate copy. So in summary, the legal process can be intimidating and confusing at a time when your emotions are more intense than ever. The relationships in your life are changing and you may feel alone. If you don't choose wisely, your lawyer can add to the burden and jeopardize your future. But there are steps you can take to protect yourself, your family, and your future. The first step you can take is prepare for the timelines and costs. The total cost from start to finish can range dramatically from $2,500 to over $100,000. In order to help you plan for these costs, be sure to ask your lawyer detailed questions. In fact, the retainer is the first relevant cost you will encounter. So ask when and how often it will need to be replenished. If you've paid a low retainer, you may be surprised to find that hourly rates start adding up and the retainer has to be replenished almost immediately. Simply put, a low retainer does not have any impact on what your total cost will be. It is simply a down payment towards future legal work. You should also add up the less visible expenses. Hourly rates apply to time in court, but that's not all. Factoring behind the scenes hours can be harder. Find out from your lawyer what additional fees and costs will be involved beyond hourly billing, such as court filing fees, motions, experts, forensic accountants, etc. Additionally, disbursements and applicable taxes often catch people off guard. Step 2 involves managing the emotional roller coaster. It's important to establish a strong support network that you can rely on for emotional support. A strong support network will make you feel like you're not alone. Another way to help you cope is seek out activities that help you feel connected and feel good about yourself. And if you need someone to talk to, please make sure you choose the right person. It's important to have someone who won't try to fix you when all you really need is someone to listen. Now, contrary to popular belief, not all feelings should be shared. Rather than being a healthy outlet, constantly venting your anger actually has a negative effect. Being angry is perfectly natural, but focusing on it can add fuel to the fire. Acknowledging anger and then channeling all that extra energy into creating a bright new future is much healthier and more productive. Not only can managing anger properly improve your health, it's also critical to your relationships, especially where children are involved. If you experience signs of depression, it means that you may need help beyond your support network. Sadness and feelings of loss are natural, but feelings of hopelessness, loss of interest in things you used to love, constant weeping, or difficulty in function are symptoms that professional help is needed. Stress and anxiety about how things ultimately will turn out are perfectly natural, but shortness of breath, hyperventilating, or pain in your chest are symptoms that anxiety has gone too far and needs treatment. Even if you're not experiencing symptoms that make treatment necessary, counseling can help relieve the stress, especially if your support network has been dismantled. Let's switch gears for a minute and address domestic violence. Please don't ignore signs that you may be a victim of domestic violence. In fact, verbal and emotional abuse often precede physical abuse. Physically acting out, such as throwing things and punching walls, are major red flags. Jealousy and controlling behavior may indicate a lack of moving on, which can escalate into violence. Even guilt trips are a form of controlling behavior that is often overlooked. You need to take immediate action on any intimidating behavior, such as stalking, displaying weapons, or threats being made against you. Please call 911 if you feel threatened in any way and contact your lawyer immediately. The third step you can take to protect yourself, your family, and your future is to get the right advice. It's important to not rely on family and friends for legal advice. Many people have a support network, which generally includes someone who's been through a divorce. Now, this is great for emotional support, but not legal advice. Every divorce is different, and family law is quite complex. Friends who intend to help may wind up doing a lot of harm instead. Even lawyers who don't specialize in family law can make serious mistakes, and the wrong advice puts you at risk. Now, here are some issues that could apply to your specific situation. Will your former spouse be able to show up whenever and disrupt your life? If you want your child to be in private school, will you have to pay for it all by yourself? If you get a fabulous job offer out of state, could you take it? Which tiny flaws in your CIS could come back to haunt you? Which clauses could leave any future children or spouse destitute in the event of your death? Which settlement mistakes could multiply your tax liability? What is the cost of post-judgment litigation? How hard is it to modify child custody, support, or visitation? What kind of communication with your spouse during a divorce can be used against you? After the shock and exhaustion of the divorce are over, what will you think of your settlement? What aggressive tactics cause judges to rule against you? Which black and white legal issues drive up legal costs with zero possibility that you can win? If you have shared child custody, are you aware of the limitations that exist? Are you sure you've identified all your bargaining chips, and what are the top hidden assets that your attorney should look for. The right lawyer will know the most appropriate strategies. Legal and financial details are important, but they're not the only aspects your lawyer needs to address. For example, the emotional situation. The right lawyer lifts the burden of stress and fear, but the wrong lawyer can make a painful time even harder by inflaming your emotions and those of your spouse, instead of putting you at ease and working towards a resolution to your matter. There's a reason that former Supreme Court Justice Weinberger said that lawyers ought to be healers of conflict, not courtroom gladiators. Anyone who has ever been through a divorce will tell you that your lawyer's style and approach impacts you from all directions. A combative style drags the matter out, driving up legal costs. It can make the judge see you in a negative light or give you more credibility. And children may suffer a lifetime of hurt because of unnecessary conflict between their parents. The right representation is balanced and appropriate to the situation. When seeking a legal representative, you want to choose someone who will be your advocate, zealously asserting your position to protect your interests without inflaming hostilities that can damage your ability to negotiate or co-parent later. You also want a strong negotiator who can get results and is experienced enough to know what can be negotiated and what can't. And finally, you want to be represented by someone who knows how to communicate the right way for the right situation. Essentially, the most effective lawyers fight when necessary, but they don't instigate a conflict where one doesn't exist. And they don't approach every conflict as an automatic fight to the death. Additionally, they should be driven by your best interests, which include your immediate interests as well as future implications. Step 4 is the final step and deals specifically with helping you find the right lawyer. You should make sure to look for the following qualifications: a firm that exclusively practices family law in New Jersey and has attorneys who stay on the cutting edge by seeking ongoing continuing legal education. The most highly qualified attorneys are certified in matrimonial law by the New Jersey Supreme Court. This means that the 2% of attorneys in New Jersey that have the certification are an elite company. A certified attorney, using a team approach, oversees the activities of the lawyers in the firm, which means you get the benefit of their expertise no matter which lawyer in the firm is representing you. So when a firm is headed by a certified attorney, the entire firm benefits through better training and higher standards. You should also look for an attorney who takes the right approach. When interviewing a lawyer, take note whether they are concerned about you and your family or is winning at any cost their main focus and approach. Also, pay attention to how well they actually listen to you. Another indicator is how they are perceived by judges. Do they have a reputation for grandstanding that makes judges take their motion with a grain of salt, or are they highly respected? Other indicators include attorneys who are frequently asked to serve as early settlement panelists, client satisfaction ratings, legal publications, and a final indicator is how the attorney and the firm actually make you feel. If you still feel alone after you've engaged an attorney, you've probably made the wrong choice. Ultimately, you should feel like you have a champion on your side to help protect you and your family's future. These educational insights have been brought to you by Weinberger Law Group. Now, our hope is that you've learned about the unexpected impacts of divorce and how they may affect you, as well as some ways to protect yourself and your family against the overlooked risks and threats, along with some questions to ask yourself and your lawyer to ensure that you're taking the right approach. Now, if it's okay, I'd like to share some background with you. Every attorney at our firm will advocate for your best interests. Our attorneys are pleasant but protective, firm yet caring, and prepared to do the right thing at the right time for you. Weinberger Law Group places a premium on close and effective attorney-client relationships, and we strive to be your legal partner for all your New Jersey family law needs. Our firm is devoted exclusively to helping clients and their families in their most difficult time of need and transition. Our attorneys understand that every situation is different. The issues in your New Jersey divorce will not be the same as the issues in someone else's divorce. Therefore, each case requires its own unique approach. We will provide you with a team of New Jersey divorce attorneys who can help you find a solution that fits the individual circumstances of your family. Our attorneys will listen closely to the details of your specific situation and help you devise a solution that's best for you. Weinberger Law Group is headed by Barry Weinberger, who is certified by the Supreme Court of New Jersey as a matrimonial law attorney. Now, this certification is achieved by only 2% of attorneys in New Jersey. Barry is also the associate author of the New Jersey Family Law Practice, a 5-volume treatise which is a leading reference guide for all judges and attorneys throughout the state. And following her lead, the attorneys at the firm serve as early settlement panelists, mediators, and court-appointed guardians throughout the state. Each lawyer has extensive courtroom experience. In fact, many of our attorneys are former clerks for well-known family law judges in New Jersey. Now, what that means is they work behind the scenes to get a better understanding of the law and process from the judge's perspective. Now, additionally, our attorneys are active in state, county, and American bar associations, as well as many other influential and prominent organizations. Now, also, every attorney at our firm is required to complete at least 24 hours of continuing legal education every 2 years. You can read some client reviews about our firm online, but here's what a few of our clients had to say about their experience with us.
Had I not engaged the Weinberger Law Group, I believe that my divorce probably would not have started with as much of a sense of fairness and decency and trying to avoid the nastiness. I think starting out with the Weinberger Law Group put me in good standing, and it helped me to begin right in a decent way, but also protecting my rights and what I was advocating for, what I believe was the best possible outcome for all involved, most especially my kids.
Divorce cannot be fun, so it's hard times, but it went very well, if I could say so, and took a lot less time than I expected.
They took it personal, in the sense that if I was going to be their client, then they were going to be somewhat of a family member, and for lack of a better term. They really did make me feel comfortable and make me feel like, they were going to be my teammate and not just, out to get money or the business aspect of it. Was really, they were in it for the game.
Being a healthcare professional, I think I could easily just do tasks, but I think my patients appreciate when I'm actually human and listen to them as well and know that I'm really listening. And with Barry, like I said, there were some things she brought to my attention that the other counsel I had seen previously, they weren't bad, but they said nothing of some of the things that she had said. And the thing that she came to me with is I told her some of the basic facts, and instantly in the first conversation she brought some things to my attention that I had no idea about, whereas the other counsel had never even suggested it. And this was a matter of a huge difference in the final settlement with what she did.
What I was looking for in a firm was to have a good connection with the attorney. I wanted someone with whom I could trust, who understood my point of view, and who could empathize with everything else going on in my life. It was a monumental task from my perspective. I interviewed a lot of people, I had met with a lot of lawyers, but I was very happy when I did settle with Barry. I felt that she was a perfect match.
We're so pleased that many of our clients volunteered to share their experience with us. You should know that these were completely unscripted. Clients have chosen Weinberger Law Group to handle all of their family law and divorce-related matters for a reason. We hope you now recognize why. Your next step is to call our office and to schedule an appointment with one of our experienced New Jersey family law attorneys. Thank you again for joining us.